Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to a special investigative briefing. Today, we're uncovering a highly sophisticated transnational threat that's basically operating right in the shadows of our cellular networks. We're breaking down the anatomy of the eSIM swap syndicate. And listen, this isn't just about a stolen phone, okay? This is a high-stakes, deeply organized form of digital hijacking that can literally liquidate your life savings in minutes. And as you're going to see, the very technology that was designed to make our devices sleeker and more secure, well, it's actually opened up a terrifying new attack vector.
So to really understand this threat, we're structuring today's intelligence briefing into three clear acts. Act 1, the sudden silence. Act 2, the identity hijack. In Act 3, the digital armor. Let's get to it.
Act 1, the sudden silence. This is the very first symptom that you've actually been targeted by the syndicate. Imagine just looking down at your phone right now, but instead of your usual carrier logo, you just see no service or 911 calls only. Now, your phone isn't broken. You haven't missed a bill. This sudden, absolute silence is the visceral, terrifying moment a SIM swap is actively taking place. In an instant, your connection to the outside world is completely severed. And while you're sitting there trying to figure out if there's just a weird network outage, a hacker thousands of miles away is already receiving all your calls, your texts, and yeah, your two-factor authentication codes. And let's be clear, this is no longer just some lone wolf hacker in a basement. The Delhi Police IFSO unit recently raided an operation in Delhi, entirely dismantling a syndicate that took this threat from a mere personal inconvenience straight to the level of international cyber terrorism. They weaponized fear and cutting-edge telecom manipulation on a massive, highly organized scale. The sheer infrastructure behind this operation is absolutely staggering. This specific syndicate used physical hardware supplied by Taiwanese nationals, while the fraudulent calls were actually originating from places like Cambodia. They communicated entirely via encrypted Telegram chats, and they deliberately routed their calls over low-frequency 2G networks. Why? To completely evade real-time location tracking by law enforcement. They even use these intense psychological traps called digital arrests, where they'd literally impersonate anti-terrorist squad officers to extort victims under the guise of national security. And the financial devastation here, it's breathtaking. Cybersecurity firm Group IB documented one specific case where a single victim lost over $160,000. Just think about that. The fraudster used a compromised SIM and a national ID to simply reset the login credentials for the victim's investment account. And just like that, they liquidated the victim's entire stock portfolio in a flash. Looking at the cold, hard data from Group IB, we really see the broader distribution of these attacks. Now, while 61% of these breaches drain moderate amounts, up to roughly $5,400, a terrifying 15% result in catastrophic, life-altering financial devastation well beyond that number. It is a high-volume, extremely high-impact crime. So how exactly are they pulling this off? Act 2, the identity hijacked. Let's do an analytical breakdown of how these syndicates digitally bypass telecom security layers. The crucial point to understand here is that the attack surface has completely shifted. An eSIM, or embedded SIM, is essentially just a tiny chip soldered right into your device, and it's managed entirely by remote telecom servers. So the vulnerability is no longer someone physically stealing a piece of plastic from you. The vulnerability is now in the software and the digital supply chain provisioning your profile. Researchers at the cybercrime prevention firm FACT have actually outlined the exact 5-step methodology of this remote hijack. Step 1, they gather your personal info. Step 2, they use that intel to take over your carrier account. Step 3, they initiate a remote eSIM swap, which often involves generating a QR code. Step 4, they scan that code to provision your number onto their device, instantly killing your network connection. And finally, Step 5, they ruthlessly exploit your banking and digital life. You know, it used to be that criminals would just call up a telecom provider and try to sweet talk or socially engineer a customer service rep into swapping the SIM. But telecom providers actually improved their internal security, so the criminals just adapted. They're now forcefully breaching consumer carrier accounts directly, using a method called brute force credential stuffing. Basically, they're taking passwords exposed in other data breaches and logging right into your mobile provider portal.
And to get that initial data they need, attackers aren't just sending random, obvious spam emails anymore. They are crafting highly specific, localized phishing platforms based on high-demand search trends. So if you're searching for vehicle inspections, domestic worker hiring platforms, or even niche things like water purification services, you might land on a perfectly replicated site designed solely to harvest your national ID and credit card details.
Oh, and to mask their locations? These syndicates use clandestine hardware called a SIM box. As we saw in the Delhi bust, a SIM box merges multiple connections into one virtual entity. They rapidly overwrite and rotate IMEI numbers, which is the unique identifier for a mobile device. This makes tracking the physical location of the attackers nearly impossible for law enforcement because a single call can appear to originate from multiple different cities all in the exact same day. Now, there's a major misconception out there that because eSIMs are embedded, they're somehow inherently safer. Actually, they're just differently vulnerable. Sure, a thief can't physically pull the plastic card out of your stolen phone, but a remote hacker doesn't even need to. If they breach your online account, they can swap your eSIM instantly by generating a remote QR code. They transfer your digital identity across the globe in a matter of seconds.
Which brings us to the prescriptive phase of our briefing. Act 3, the digital armor. Let's look at the rigid technical settings you need to lock down your cellular identity immediately.
Listen, this is absolutely the most critical defense directive you can take away from this explainer. You must immediately migrate away from SMS-based two-factor authentication. If a hacker owns your SIM, they own your SMS texts. It's that simple. Instead, you've got to switch all your financial and personal accounts to authenticator apps like Google Authenticator or Duo. These apps generate codes locally on your physical device, making them completely immune to a SIM swap. Next up, we need to enforce some non-negotiable lockdowns directly with your carrier. You need to add a custom SIM lock PIN, so the SIM requires a password to activate. You also need to enable a port freeze or number lock to stop any unauthorized transfers. Make sure to add biometric verification, like Face ID, to your carrier account. And this is crucial, remove your cell phone number as the recovery option for your email accounts. This actually leads to an immediate action item you've got to execute today. Change your default SIM PIN right now. Many carriers use default, highly guessable PINs for their users. For example, AT&T's default PIN is often literally just 11111. Hackers know this, guys. You need to create a unique, non-sequential PIN that cannot be easily brute forced. To help you out, here is a quick reference dossier to execute specific lockdown protocols depending on your carrier. If you're on AT&T, hop on the My AT&T app to enable the wireless account lock. For Verizon users, head into your security settings and turn on both number lock and SIM protection. And if you have T-Mobile, use the T-Life app to enable port out and SIM protection. Flipping these switches essentially freezes your number right in place. But look, the burden of defense isn't entirely on you. Financial institutions absolutely must adapt. Group IB mandates that banks have to automatically freeze high-risk actions the second a SIM swap is detected. Those simple security questions, they're totally obsolete. Banks must now rely on behavioral analysis, things like tracking your typing speed, your mouse movements, your login habits. Because while a fraudster can steal your SIM, they cannot mimic your genuine human behavior. So we've seen how what used to be a physical crime has completely evolved into an invisible, digital, and transnational threat. These syndicates are highly adaptive. They've moved from social engineering to brute force credential stuffing, and they're exploiting the very convenience of the eSIM. Knowing how incredibly fast these hackers pivot, I want you to ask yourself, as telecom networks evolve their security, what new digital blind spots are you leaving unprotected right now? Put your digital armor in place today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.